Welcome to the Firehouse Roundtable podcast, brought to you by the Ventura Fire Foundation. My name's Peter McKenzie. I'm one of the hosts. I'm a retired fire captain with the City of Ventura Fire Department.
And I'm Jason Kay. I'm an active fire captain also with the Ventura Fire Department.
And we are excited that you are going to spend some time with us at the kitchen table, learning about firehouse issues that we're trying to bring awareness to.
Thanks for joining us as we discuss the issues of being a firefighter, both on and off duty, and how it affects us.
Let's get right to it.
All right. I'd like to welcome to the show John Gary. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I've been excited to have him on the show, and I geeked out just enough to be actually wearing one of his shirts on the podcast today. So welcome, John Gary, to the podcast of American Fire Brigade.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, we've been trying to get you on the show for a while, and I know you're busy. You're active firefighter, currently working in Metro down in Southern California like us. And I just want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, what you're about, how you got into the fire service maybe a little bit, and then kind of what brought you to where you're at today.
Grew up in a small town. I'll give them a little shout out. 6,000 people, Needles, California. It's in the middle of a desert on the river. When I got out of high school, I wanted to do something, so I joined the Navy. I was an aviation structure mechanic. I worked on helicopters, jets, everything. And then they sent me to San Diego. I've been here ever since. I came here and the weather, I was like, there's no way the weather's always like this. And it was. So I just stayed here. And I've been here for about 20 years. I have a wonderful wife of 20 years also. We got married. We were one of those guys that got married right at the Navy, where you're not supposed to do. And but it worked out. And me and my wife, we both admit that we didn't really know each other at all from probably 3 years of marriage.
Yeah.
But we got lucky and it actually worked out. We got to know each other, and it was even better than I thought it was going to be.
Nice.
I have two kids. I got a teenage boy and a 7-year-old girl, and they keep me very busy. Yeah, I work for the fire department. This brigade thing, it was just kind of a joke. This is kind of why I'm here, right? I got hurt a while back. I almost lost an eye on the job, and I was at home for 6 months, and I realized how mentally and physically jacked up I was. I started getting a mental help through the department that they offered to me, and I started sleeping, and I started realizing how tired I was, how strung out I was from working, way too many Mandos and overtimes. So when I got back to work, when I was off duty like that, I started the brigade, and it was really just fire videos. And then a couple of memes happened, and they kind of went viral. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. I'll start doing that. And then I made a shirt, and then the rest has kind of led me to where I'm at now. I'm back on the job, and, I'm very careful with my mental health and my sleeping. I make sure, if I work way too much, I make sure I take some days off and recoup. And it's kind of what the page is about. It's not about blaming anybody or being negative. It's about laughing about our situation, getting the job done, and also trying to, what do they call it? Destigmatize?
Destigmatize, sure.
Destigmatize. I found that I'm able to do that a little bit and make people laugh, and I'm having a good time.
Yeah, talking about, how it all started from Mandos. Obviously, you're known. Did you coin that term, or was that before you? The Mandos of the Mando Nation.
That's what we call it down here. Mando. Okay. That's what it's called. I learned through the brigade, there's forced, there's held over, there's a lot of different names. Mando is just how I knew it. It's how my family knew it. Comedy is basically making fun of something that we all do or know, and we don't even realize that we all do and know. And I kind of just fell on it. Nothing was planned. And I remember early on, people were telling me oh, you got to use force. And I was like, nothing against all that, but that's just not what I know. I just got to do what I know.
Yeah.
And then all the stuff I do kind of just happens on accident. Mando City, I don't even know who came up with that. I don't even think I did. But it just started going.
So how long ago was the eye injury that you first talked about? You want to talk about, was that an on-duty injury?
Yeah, it was. I wish it was a cool story, it was an explosion, and I had a dog in one hand and a person in my other hand. I was going, no, that's not what happened. I got it. I was first. I wish I was first in. on a little fire in someone's granny flat in the backyard. And when you're first there, you got to figure out what the heck's going on, see if you got to counsel everybody. So I went in real quick, and I had my gear, but I didn't have my mask on, and it wasn't really a fire. And I just peeked my head through a burnt up, broken window I looked up at the eave because oh, there's the fire. And I don't know if my helmet tipped the glass or what happened, but the glass just came down right in my eye. My engineer at the time, who's from Alabama, he only uses his Alabama accent when stuff's getting serious. And he yelled at me, "Get down, sit on the tailboard." And he wrapped my eye up, and I went to that was it. I mean, it was actually probably honestly the best injury. I mean, it was right around Halloween, so I had an eye patch for Halloween, and it really didn't hurt. It was just more of annoying. I thought something poked me in the eye. I honestly didn't know if I was going to keep the eye though, and just some real thoughts start going through your head. And one of the things that I will say that kind of started the brigade, I have to say, it was a little bit of an annoyance. We had at the time, we didn't have pensions, and we also, through a glitch, didn't have death and disability coverage. And I was told that on the phone. And when I found that out, I wasn't super happy about it. I mean, they were kind of saying, hey, after a year, you're on state disability, and there was like a handshake agreement to take care of me. And I didn't like that. And I didn't know what was going to go in my eye. It worked out, and the union worked really hard. They were able to get our pension back, and we have all those benefits now that everyone else has. But that's kind of was a first meme I did, and I was kind of just poking fun at it. But yeah, the eye healed. It's got a stitch in it.
Do you think that the brigade was then born out of kind of necessity to figure out how you're still going to live your life if you didn't have the fire department behind you? Is that kind of where the whole thing stemmed from? Or was it more like, man, I'm going through this thing, I gotta start at least joking around with it to kind of get people on board, and to make people kind of like you were talking about before, where we all do the same things. We got to make fun of them. If we all have them in common, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, you got it pretty good. I was sitting here not knowing what was going to happen with my future, and I didn't know if you can go back to the job with one eye. So I was definitely sitting there, and I always enjoyed editing videos just with my family. I would edit constant, like my kids and stuff and sports. And I just always thought it'd be cool to start doing fire videos. So I just started doing it. Did I have a plan that this would turn into what it is? Heck no. Heck
No way.
No, not at all. And I didn't even know it was going to go towards humor. I was trying to be more like serious at the time. I honestly didn't even know that anybody would think it was funny, So I would say that there was an idea of that, what you said, like maybe what I could do in the future is this, but I really felt it like deep, like, hey, I should do this. This is fun. I like this.
One of our things that I don't want to say preach about, but that we talk about on our show from the financial side is, you're, as a firefighter, you're a professional, a very low paid professional athlete. And the second you can no longer do the job that you're hired to do, then what, right? Like you potentially had like a little bout like, oh, if I lose my eye, can I be a fireman? And if you did lose your eye and the answer was no, now you're like, oh, now what? Like my whole life, this is what I do. This is how I take care of my family. How did that change your outlook on this, or change conversations you were having with other guys, or did that change you at all?
Oh, it definitely changed me. I love the job. I love the adrenaline of it. Everyone does. We wouldn't do it if we didn't like it. But I had to understand. I think what I preach now is like, hey, get busy, have fun, run multiple calls, controlled chaos. We love it. But when you have time off, make sure you take that time off. I think I preach that a lot more than I used to. I enjoy the little things a little better. And I think I said it earlier on a post, I protect my days off pretty hard. Mm-hmm. I don't say yes to a lot of things. I think that changed me. Yeah, it changed me like that. I think before I would just work, and now I don't. I'm like, no, I got to stay home or try to get some sleep.
Yeah.
And it's funny what you said about the athlete thing. I'm glad you said that, because I've been telling my wife that for a while, and she's not agreeing with me. I tell her I am a paid professional athlete, and I have to go work out this much time. So
Yeah, sometimes that's just
I've been saying
pickleball.
that for a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 No, she doesn't care. I think she likes when I'm super busy. I'm more probably more lively than just laying
Yeah.
around all day. You know.
I think that although it is kind of funny, is at the same time it's kind of serious, right? Like there's guys that get hurt and can never come back to the job, and if you spent your whole life preparing for a job in the fire service, like now what? You should have something to fall back on. That's not easy. It's not easy to do. Like you can't just run a side by side career to the fire service so you have something to go back to. But I think you're probably a pretty good example of that. And we had firefighter Fenton on a few weeks ago, and he's also kind of a similar story to yours. Just started this thing, it started resonating with people, and now it's potentially turning into something. So I think those are good examples. I got it. So you said it was basically accidental. You kind of fell into it, which I totally get. You struck a nerve with firefighters and their families about all the things that you make fun of, which are funny, and they're also some of the stuff is also serious, right? And the things that we explore on this podcast is, what is the real effect of getting mandated 15 times a month, or being home 3 days out of the month? Like that has an impact, a serious impact on your family, on you as the firefighter, on your kids, all of the things. And you clearly tapped into that, and I think that part's awesome, and it resonates with everybody. Especially in the fire service in Southern California. I was on a fishing trip and some guy's kid had one of your hats on, and I was like, oh, that's funny. We're going to be talking to him next week. But what do you feel an obligation to do something with this thing you've created that kind of supersedes the humor and the funny side of it? Is that a thing with you or no?
Yeah, I do. And like I said, the mental health thing, I try and use my platform for that. I talk about the fact that I got help, and I get help regularly for calls I've seen, PTSD, mental issues. One I do with that. And the other thing I do is me and a couple buddies. Well, he actually started, I got to give him credit. Sean, he started this thing called Mustache Madness. And we do it every year. It's a big party down here. And God, I think it's the night. I should know the date before I come to this podcast. But we have a big party, and we just donate all the money to cancer awareness here in San Diego. And I use that. So like my job with him is the promoter. So I promote that. I make fun of it. I make fun of us. I make fun of Sean. So yeah, I'm trying to get back in what I can. I would love to do like one of those things where I could like give a big check to a charity one of these days, and make a joke about how I'm not really maybe like I have the big check, and like I'm signing off with like a big charitable organization, as they're trying to take it, I won't let go. I'm just like holding it. They're like, like, oh yeah. Like there's something I would love to get into that when I get to that point. But I'm doing little things now, using my platform for good things in the Mustache Madness. And I think I do a lot of little things. I do a lot of little things with a lot of fire departments around the country. They tell me like, hey, can they get some hats for this charity golf course? And I always try to do that also. Just doing what I can do,
As you get more success, do you find yourself becoming more intentional with how you run it, or what your goals are for it? Like, does that get more clear, or is it still just kind of whatever happens?
It does. Like in the beginning, I would say it's still pretty crazy. Like people come at me with the craziest opportunities, and I'm getting a lot better about nicely saying no. I said yes too much in the beginning. I mean, I did a podcast for a little while, and the podcast editing, production, everything, like just like the pre-work up to it was crushing me. Even though the podcast was doing okay, I just couldn't keep it up. And I had a moment with my family where I was like, I got to choose what I want to do. It's family, it's work. And this second gig, like, what do I like doing? I like making the videos, and I like making the hats. So I focused on that. So now my focus really is like on hats, and everything else is kind of with the page, like merch wise, is secondary. So yes, I say no a lot more. I had to say no a lot, I found. And I want to be on everyone's podcast, but now I kind of choose, like, I know this is a charity, this is a foundation. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to learn to say no. And it's hard because people really, they want to tap into the fun brigade stuff. And I have to tell them, no, I can't do it. They probably get annoyed when I just want to play pickleball and work out, but that's protecting my days off.
Yeah.
And when I don't do that, I can't make the humor because I'm strung out and tired and my family is not happy. When you protect your days off, protect your sleep, and take care of yourself and everyone else around you, like a wife remembers why she married me. My kids don't think of me badly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to say no a lot, unfortunately.
It's hard to, and I didn't realize this till I retired from the fire department, it's hard to, I used to think of self-care, which is exactly what you're talking about, taking care of yourself, make sure you're sleeping, all the things. It feels selfish, but it's actually the opposite. It's selfless because you are not the husband and father you want to be when you're strung out and haven't slept and worked a bunch. And it's the right thing to do is to take care of yourself. And especially in today's day and age in the fire service that we're in right now, where everyone's short staffed, people are getting mandated, people are going out of town. Like it's self-care is like very bottom of the list for most people. And I think your message is good. It shouldn't be. And, let's talk about this. When you talk about protecting your days off and like really focusing on self-care and making sure you can be the best person you can by making sure you're taken care of, that sometimes, like, let's just say everybody did that in the fire department. And this is something we struggled with at our department. Like if everybody was like that, what's going to happen at the fire department? What's going to happen to the guys left behind? And I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong. Please don't take it that way. But we've gone around and around on this issue before because there's generational issues here. There's depending whether you're, millennial, Gen Z, all those things. I think everybody should prioritize self-care. But I think at the same time, if everybody prioritized self-care and not working as much, we'd also have a bigger problem. Have you ever what are your thoughts on that?
The workforce has got used to everybody saying yes to working extra because they're getting paid. And I think if people kind of took a step back, I think they would be forced to figure out a new solution than overtime. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think the fire department in this country, the fire as a whole, it seems like they're starting to pivot towards mental health. And they're saying it's the calls, which is true. I have a lot of issues with calls, but I don't think they're really talking about the overwork. And if they really put that in the conversation and we really focused on not overworking the guys, I think a lot of the mental health and I know with me personally, the PTSD is way better when I sleep a good 8 hours versus if I woke up 3 times because I worked. So I think what I'm saying is, yes, it will be a hard change. There will be more guys forced and there'll be a lot of stuff going on. But I think in the long run, they will prioritize you when you are there. And maybe even compensation would be better because guys aren't focused on working overtime. Makes any sense?
Does the department where you work have a D shift?
No.
Because I know a lot of departments have that D shift, which kind of means there's a whole nother shift of guys to work if there's a vacation or a vacancy or whatever. And that seems more and more, palatable, where the old school guys are more like, don't give me that extra shift because I want the overtime or I need the overtime.
Yeah.
More and more people. And I know Peter and I are going to say the same thing. All the therapists, we ask them every time, if there's one thing you could change to make mental health better in the fire department, what would it be? And we keep thinking they're going to come up with, some kind of like meditate more or get some therapy. And every single one of them has said, work less, just work less. Like, and
you have to remember what your life is. Remember what your life is outside the fire service. I just said it earlier. You can't enjoy your job if you ain't enjoying your day off because it just becomes your life. It's all you talk about. If you come home from work and all you talk about is work, you're probably working too much. And that's why I talk about pickleball all the time. Like pickleball is like my thing. Like they all know me at the courts. They have no idea about the brigade there. Well, some of them do, but most of them have no idea. And I have a whole nother life there. And I think that's good. I think it's good to have. I wear these hats. Like, oh, that's a cool hat. I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, where'd you get it? I don't know. Some guy. Yeah. I got some guy. I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Austin Folk, an engineer with the Ventura City Fire Department. I'm also on the board of the Ventura Fire Foundation. an organization that supports firefighters and their families. The foundation produces this podcast as part of our mission. I worked with the foundation because I was witness to the help that it was able to provide to my family. The foundation needs your help. First, please subscribe and rate this podcast on your podcast platform. This helps us get a higher ranking and more visibility for the show. Second, if you support the podcast and the foundation's work, please consider donating. Every dollar helps us support firefighters and their families. There's a link in the show notes, or you can donate through the website at www.venturafirefoundation.org. Thank you for listening.
You bring up a good point about identity, right? Because one of the other things we go on and on about is how to retire, because retiring is difficult for guys. And there's a lot of mental health issues wrapped up in retiring that are all connected to sleep and PTSD and of the 30 years of destruction you did to your mind and body in the fire service. But some of the experts that we've had on talking about retirement are the conversation goes to identity. And if your identity is a firefighter and that's it, and like you said, you're talking about your fire slayer, eat, live, and breathe fire department stuff when you're off duty, and that's all you think about. Those are the guys that have a really hard time retiring because their identity is 100% wrapped up in their job, which I think is structurally a problem. Like, you need to have a life outside. Like, your family should be a big one for you. Like, you're not a firefighter to your family. You're the dad and the husband, and you need connection outside of the department. And that's hard, especially for young guys who just worked their tail off to get this job and that's all they want to do. But it's a good point that identity is important. And it sounds like you kind of get that, and you're intentionally like doing that with your pickleball identity and your fire brigade thing. And, good to see.
So do people know you when you go out? Have you ever been recognized? Or is it usually by the hats, or is it mostly because of its fire geek memes that most people don't recognize you outside the house?
No, I've been recognized. It's an odd thing. Somebody yelled at me at IHOP the other day. Oh, you didn't get Mandoed? It's a little. I got the suburb I live in. The firefighters here. It's actually a different city than I work in, and they all know me usually. And I get recognized a little bit, but I always say it's like being popular in like Monopoly money. It's like, it's not real. No one really knows who you are. Most places they don't. It's really just firefighters and a few cops. I think it depends where I'm at. Like when I go to the bash, they all know who I am. With the Mustache Madness, they know who I am. But generally, no, pretty low key.
Get some anonymity still. What was the OG video? Was it the old school?
The Mando van thing. It was an accident, just like all my stuff. I made that a year before it really went viral, and it did well, but it was just that it would happen. And it was just a funny joke. And what happened is COVID happened, and we were all stuck in the station. Remember they said we can't even go to the park and work out. And that's like one of our things that we do. You go to the park, you walk, you talk, you get outside, you get the sun. We all know that's part of our thing. And they told us we couldn't even do that. We were like locked up. That's actually when pickleball started too. And I made that then. And I think we were all getting mad. We were stuck at the station and people gravitated towards it. And when I knew something was happening, something was odd in the waters, was when all those fires, this was probably a few years back, all these fires are burning in Northern California. And I was getting messages on the Instagram page of burnt up vans out in the forest. And the firefighters were saying, "We got the van, we got it." I was like, "What?" And then I was getting all this like messages of like funny stuff. I'm like, who are these people? And then like guys who were like getting Auto X, they were all purposely getting vans so they can cut up the Mando van, and so it just kind of happened. That's definitely one of the core videos. There's one with Arnold swinging an axe. He's like 2 years on the job. There's probably 3 or maybe 5 OG ones. That's one of them for sure.
Yeah, I love it. And then you used to do more kinds of merch, right? You had more in your line, in your SKU line, or do you still do a bunch of shirts or is it mostly focused on hats now?
I have over 100 variants of hats, and I only have a few shirts. And it's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the no thing. Like I kind of focus mainly on what I am more, and making silly hats I really enjoy doing. And I have the capability of getting them in a more variety of hats. So I'm focused more on that. Yeah, I have everything. Like I do mystery boxes, and I'm throwing in all kinds of random stuff, coasters, station straps. I'm kind of random, but I focus on hats. I am thinking about bringing the mugs back for Christmas. I hate shipping those things.
Yeah, I bet.
My whole family does, because my son, I actually hired him. He does a lot of the shipping, and we hate doing the mugs. They cost them, but I'm going to do them. I think I'm going to do them like once a year just for the holidays.
Why do you hate the mugs? Because they're fragile and heavy, or?
Yeah, and I got to like put them in the styrofoam, put them in the box, and this and that. Or like, I got 3 hats, that, and a shirt. Like, it just causes issues. The hats are like, you just throw them in, and it's like easy. And hats don't break. Mugs break a lot on me, and I got to take care of the guys. I got to take care of them and send them new ones, which is no problem. But it's just they're a pain. That's kind of why I stopped doing those for a little while.
How big is the company now?
As far as like employees?
Yeah, well, how big? How much volume do you do? How much time does it take you of your day?
It's a full-time job, and one of the things I've noticed is if I wasn't making any money doing it, I'd have to spend a lot less time on Instagram to make me feel as a good father, because I spend so much time on it. Luckily, it gives back enough to where it gives something to my family, and it allows me to be home and work a lot less overtime. So that's my trade-off. I'm shipping, I'd say on an average, probably 100 shipments a week.
Wow.
The holidays are freaking crazy. The holidays, we're coming up on the craziest time, and it's fun though. And I usually got to get the wife also involved, helping out, but it's just a small family thing. Mainly just me and my son doing it. And I don't ship next day, just so you know. I'm not Amazon. It's going to be a week, sometimes a week and a half before you get your stuff. It's just the way it is. I always make a joke, like, this isn't Amazon. You'll get it when you get it, you know?
Yeah, so that leads me automatically to the next question, which is, are you going to stay being a firefighter? Is there a vision of retiring early and doing this full time, or do you still find enough value as a firefighter to stay doing that full time?
Yeah, I do. I don't have a vision of anything. I kind of doing what I've been doing. I'm just following my gut and just keep doing what I'm doing, having fun. I don't have a vision to leave the fire department. No. If that's saying I won't ever do it. I mean, I made a joke with my wife, like, I have a certain amount of money I'd have to make in a year for me to actually think about that, and I haven't hit that. And I don't know if I will.
Yeah, and that's probably pretty realistic.
Yeah, and I don't think about that stuff. I seriously try to just have fun. And if I'm not having fun with a hat, if I don't laugh at what I'm doing or laugh at the hat I made, then I don't, it's not going to make any money anyway. So I just focus on having fun. And if it grows, it grows. And it has been growing steadily. I actually think I've been doubling the income of it every year for 3 years. It's been doubling over, so it just keeps folding over. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen.
Have you had people approach you of doing similar things in their areas? I don't know about copying you, but like that want to do something similar to you?
Yeah. And I don't hate on anybody. I'm not the only one getting Mandoed, and I don't own the word Mando. As a matter of fact, if I tried to, I think Disney wouldn't let me, because the Mandalorian, I don't think I'd be able to trademark. I heard from a lawyer before that Disney's crazy. But anyway, no, I do. I just had somebody contact me the other day. They're making a Mando City shirt, and they asked me if they could. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't care. I'm not trying to stop anybody. Yeah, people make their own little local stuff sometimes. And usually I just ask to send me a hat or shirt. I'm not trying to stop your guys' game.
No, I meant like, are you like mentoring people who are trying to create something like you created type?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. There's a couple pages that I don't want to take credit for, because it's definitely their own mind and their own doing it. But yeah, they definitely contacted me early on, and I've seen them grow tremendously. Actually, a couple of them are, I think they're over 100K on Instagram now, and it's cool. And you know what? Like I said, I enjoy it. But like Fenton, you brought up Fenton earlier. Early on, I talked to him, and he's always been super cool and mentory to me. And I think all of us in the fire humor business, there's not that many of us. We all know each other, and we all talk here and there and send each other stuff and all that. So yeah, I had a few.
I think what's funny from my perspective of obviously being a fireman and then having the opportunity to talk to you and Fenton and whatnot is it seems to start organically, but it all turns into an obligation, not an obligation. That's not the right word, but it all turns into a responsibility. Like now you have this platform. There's all this stuff that we need to draw attention to in the fire service. That's really important that we can bridge that with humor, but it just kind of talks to who firemen are in general. Like, okay, I got this thing. I need to do something good with it. I'm going to help the other guys with it. Like, I think that's awesome. I think it's admirable. You're not, hey, how can I squeeze every penny out of this and retire rich and screw the fire department and I'm out of here. Like, that's not what I see happening with this fire department humor thing. Like, I think that's the first time I've heard that coined. Like, you're in the fire department humor business. That's just interesting. But
yeah, it's hard to explain. Like my dad lives back in the small town I grew up in, and like those guys recognized he was wearing a Mando venture, and those guys recognized it, and he had no idea what the heck. He's like, "Wait, what? You guys know what I'm wearing?" Like, how do you explain to your dad? They don't understand. My mom does.
Yeah.
My mom's all over in that page, liking every comment like a mom does.
Yeah. Funny.
It's funny as far as the obligation thing. When I first started, I honestly didn't know I could. I guess you can call it writing humor. I don't know, making a meme. I didn't really know. And I actually remember being stressed, like, how am I going to keep this up? Like, how am I going to make another one? And one of the things I learned is you can't be like that. You have to just take care of yourself. Like we were talking about earlier, that self-help or self-care. When you do that and then something happens, like the hurricane we just had, stuff just comes to me. Just like usually Twister movie references, but which leads me to another issue. I think I didn't realize I watched way too much TV growing up, way too much, and I found a way to use that to my advantage, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, hey, that's good. It worked out.
So does your crew like it or hate it, or do they not care, or do they come up with stuff with you in the firehouse, or how does that work?
So it's good. They always love it. So when I work overtime and I work out in the city, guys have a blast, and they come up. And actually, I get some great material from those guys. Some of them are really bad, and some of them want me to watch an hour-long YouTube video and like, look at this. This is funny, and they're bad. But some of them most firefighters are really funny people. And I have a joke going. What I started doing now is like, hey man, if you come up with something today, and I make the video and it gets 1,000 likes in 48 hours, I'll give you a hat. So they are focused on that, and then. I didn't realize this. My captain a while back told me I actually got we get evaluations, and he gave me a very good one. And he wrote in there that when I am around, everybody in the station is focused on trying to be funny in a good way. And they're doing that instead of whining or being negative or bullying. Or, you know what I mean? Like just they're doing something positive. And he enjoyed that about me being on the crew.
That's pretty insightful. That. Yeah, that's cool.
I never even thought of it. I never looked at it from that angle. So I don't shoot no one down. I let people tell them, just keep going. If you tell me one and I don't like it, don't take offense. Just keep shooting. And I let them. And like I said, I get a lot of material from people in the fire department. They're funny.
Yeah, I see your dumpster hat on right now, or dumpster fire hat, and that's one of your newer additions, right? I see a lot of dumpster fire stuff happening. So, is the veteran thing? Do you have a presence in the kind of the military vet community as well with some of your stuff?
I'm trying to. I don't think I really do. I did notice this hat sells really well, and I do notice when I do post veteran things, they do pretty well. I'm suspecting I got a pretty good veteran following. I'm not 100% sure. I would love to be. There's some great cheesy word influencers in the military world right now that I love watching. So yeah. I would love to be at a table with them. I don't know if I ever will. That is where a lot of my humor comes from. Is definitely the Navy. I mean, you've heard this a million times. Fire department's not much different than military. It's very similar. I would say the military humor is probably more dark. But I mean, I was on a Navy. I was on a ship. I was on the Ronald Reagan, on deployment, and it was like being in a fire station. It was just nonstop. It's probably worse because you don't ever have any civilians knocking on the door, so it's just us.
Yeah, there's a ton of similarities between the fire department and the military for sure. We've had some military and spouses on our program before, and it's funny how much the issues that we have revolving around being a firefighter and lack of sleep and shift work and all that stuff it's just the same with a lot of those military guys too.
I think that's why the page was successful. The military and the fire department. We have this is not my quote. It's Anthony Bourdain. He's like, firefighters are like Marines where, and I'm not quoting this correctly, but no matter what's happening, no matter how bad the situation is, no matter how understaffed, don't have the right tools, firefighters, military, we have this ability to just laugh about it because we're in it together and figure it out. And that is like every structure fire, everything you go to, nothing seems to go right. And that's what we are. And we still manage to have a couple laughs about something. That would be like my page's like core values, like try and share that aspect of our lives.
Yeah, I actually have that quote on my phone too. They always go for the worst, and they go for it. Yeah, and they kind of like that stuff. I like it. So a couple more questions. I'm going to get pretty serious on you for just a second. What happened to the mullet? And can we bring it back?
You know what? It got too popular.
Yeah.
I had to let it go. I was just at the gym. So I'm going to my local gym lately, and holy heck. I mean, everyone has a mullet. I'm walking around and it's not as cool. In my personal opinion, it's cool. There's some dudes on the job. If you got a little bit of a curl, like your mullet's straight. Like if you look like Hell on Oates or those guys, like keep it going. But most of these mullets, including mine, were horrible. And you know what's funny? That was a joke, as everything I do. That was a joke. I was a part of a running group, believe it or not, before COVID, like trail running, and we all started growing mullets. And then I didn't realize that my particular fire department, I was the only one with a mullet at the time, and I didn't really realize that. And then the page, I started putting my face on it a lot, kind of took off, and then I realized, like, oh crap, I don't want to have a mullet forever.
Well, that made for some great content. That made for some definitely great content.
I started noticing it was thinning, and I was like, this is my last chance to have a mullet in my life. So I just did it, and then it thinned a little bit. It's still hanging on, but it may come back. My problem is I don't really have a curl. Like it kind of was just straight. It just looked like I don't know, like it was a death metal band or something.
Do you have a favorite design, or do you have a favorite shirt or hat that you always kind of go to for yourself?
No, I like what's new, and I'm pretty spoiled because I make them. So I usually like a white hat, and I just put whatever my new logos on it. I like everything I do, but not everything is liked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big risk, everything I do. And I always put something out. If I put it out, I probably like it. And sometimes it doesn't go well, and it just kind of gets faded back into the shelf, you know?
Do you ever get hate? Do people hate on stuff you've put out before or no?
Oh yeah. I mean, a little bit. I feel like if you're not getting hated on, like, what are you doing?
Good for you.
It's the same thing with everything in life.
Yep.
Like, I mean, even I don't know what your guys' rank were, but even for like a chief, for instance, like if you're not being hated on, like if you're just like going with every plan, everyone says, oh, it's a good idea. Are you really leading? I'm not saying I'm a leader, but like, I mean, hate is like, that's just the way it is. Yeah. And one thing I do though is I don't give it any attention because I've seen too many Instagram pages get into that and like comment on it. Like, nah, man, you get a hater, you be a hater. You're always gonna be a hater anyway. I'm not gonna change you.
I always say if everyone likes you, it means you don't stand for anything, right? All right, John. Well, it was great to hear from you. I really appreciate you being on the show. How could people find out more about you, or where can they go to get in touch with you if they'd like to get a hat?
Instagram, TikTok, American Fire Brigade. It's also AmericanFireBrigade.com. Well, my thing just broke. What the heck? That's pretty much it. You guys know where to find me. My new thing is trying to come out with a new hat every month. I got one. Actually, when is this show going to come out?
I think in a month or two.
Okay, well, this would be the hat.
Yeah.
I haven't showed anybody this yet, so I'll show you guys. So you guys ever ate at Whataburger?
Yeah.
I know Whataburger, but I've never eaten there.
Yeah, I love coming out with new stuff. Here's the new one for next month. This is just a patch.
What a rip. Oh, nice.
That's pretty good.
That could have a lot of different meanings, too.
You don't ever have anybody come after you as far as, like, you don't have Whataburger come after you for their logo?
Copyright.
Yeah, copyright, thanks.
We'll find out. I don't know.
All right, John. Well, thanks for your time. If you guys don't know who John Gary is, then you're not a firefighter. Go look up American Fire Brigade. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Well, that was cool. It's kind of been a dream of mine to have John Gary from the American Fire Brigade on. We kind of got some good stories and intro from him as far as how his company started. And then, he's using his platform, which I didn't really know about, to really talk about some peer support and some PTSD that he's had issues with and gone through. And he really promotes going to therapy and just kind of being a healthy individual.
I think that's great. I also he said something about being in the fire department humor business, and I'd never really thought of that was even a thing, but it's definitely a thing. I mean, we had firefighter Fenton and him, and there's the other fire department coffee people and those guys. Like it's like a little niche that is just fascinating to me, that you wouldn't think that would be an industry or a business, but just goes to show you that, there's a need out there. You strike a chord with a certain group of people, there's opportunities that arise out of it, which is cool to see people like John Gary doing stuff like that. And then at the flip side, turning it into something good, because it's not just all laughs, and, there's good that can come out of having a platform like that too, which was nice to see. But yeah.
Yeah, we're still going to have to talk about, I got to figure out somehow that ratio of protect your days off, protect your sleep for your kids and your wife, but still be involved in the fire department. And I think that's maybe where we're headed for some of our future conversations, is how we can still keep kind of the old school brotherhood of the fire department alive. And it's kind of what we're doing with the foundation, but still raise awareness towards, you can't be 100% a firefighter 100% of the time, and how unhealthy that is for your family and yourself.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is, because it's complex, right? Because if you go too far one side, you're gonna be viewed negatively at the fire department. If you go too far on the fire department side, your family's gonna hate you. So, I don't know what that balance is, but we definitely should be exploring that for sure. I think that's a worthy thing to dive into.
Yeah, probably a conversation for the next therapist we have on. Anyways, it was another good one. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. We'll talk soon.